Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's time to start the class. This is Adam, the Chief Operations Officer of the HAMA Association. I'm just going to share this to the group to make sure that we can get this up and running, and then we can get started on the class. Let's see here. Just making sure that everybody is in. Just drop a comment, say hello if you're here. Hey there, Vance. What's going on, Alexander? Let's see. We got 6 people in. We'll wait until we have about 10, and then we can get started. But how is everybody doing today? You guys all right? Drop me a comment. Say hello. How you doing, Alex? Glad to have you here. Hello, Suraj Paul. Hello, Katrina. Yes, well, thank you for attending. That would be, I'm very glad to see that you are here and everybody is here. Wait for 3 more people to show up. Hi, Barbara. So we'll wait for 3 more people to show up, and then we can get started with the class. So I guess in general, we can start talking about the background of Modern Tahtib and where it comes from. So Modern Tahtib is I'll say the 3rd or 4th incarnation of an art from ancient Egypt that was originally called nabut, nabut being the word for stick. Now, stick fighting in Egypt goes back about 5,000 years. The earliest examples we have are from the Abu Sir necropolis, where you actually see the 3 martial disciplines of ancient Egypt shown as archery, wrestling, and stick fighting. Now, what's also very important is that stick fighting was the common man's weapon. That was the common man's art. So the purpose of it was you pluck a young guy off of his farm, you put him in training camp for 3 weeks, and he should be talented, or should be able to defend himself with a stick or any weapon about this big. Let me show you an example. So this right here is the Modern Tahtib manual written by Dr. Adel Boulad. So I'll give you a bit of the background on how it got from the walls of the Abu Sir necropolis into this manual. So for how many thousands of years, Tahtib was taught in the training camps. And of course, over time, anyone familiar with Egyptian history would know that the Egyptians had been conquered by the Greeks, the Assyrians, the Persians, the Arabs, the Romans, the British. Name them. They've run their time. So over time, the art itself was replaced by the martial traditions of whichever conquering army had come in after a particular period of time. Now, what's important to note is that Tahtib never went away. It just left the training camps and retreated to the villages or retreated to the towns. So this became a way for people to have social cohesion, for them to get along, for them to settle disputes. So, if you stole my goat and I'm mad at you, we're going to stick fight it out. Fast forward a few years, by the time the Islamic invasion of the 7th century came in, Tahtib was basically just something that was done in the villages, and people did it, but the martial traditions of groups like the Mamluks had essentially taken over as the main method of training. And it just continued that way through everybody who had been through Egypt, including Napoleon. Then we get to roughly the late 19th century, early 20th century, and dueling bands started to be installed around the world. So this means that 2 guys in Upper Egypt who are mad at each other can no longer bludgeon each other with sticks until one of them stops moving. So then that retreated further back, and it became something that was essentially preserved by Saidi culture in the south. So Upper Egyptians, Southern Egyptians, however you want to call them, they were the ones who preserved and kept the art alive. Fast forward again to the 1960s. The Reda dance troupe in Egypt started to use tahtib, or what we would call traditional tahtib, as a feature in many of their belly dancing displays or exhibitions. And that reignited the popularity of tahtib in the general zeitgeist of Egypt. But that's basically what it stayed, a dance, or something that a bunch of guys did together, drinking tea and having a party at a wedding or on a weekend. Enter Dr. Adel Boulad, who you can see right here in this fancy little picture. He traveled around Upper Egypt, and he spent time with masters like Reyes Hassan, and he compiled the different techniques from the different villages and put it back together. And what happens when you have isolation, like what happened with Tahtib when it was no longer part of the major military exercise training, is it starts to degrade a bit. So one village will have a particular set of techniques that they were very good at, and then another village will have another set of techniques that they were very good at. But the challenge with that is that that it's not complete. So over the course of several years, he documented all of that information and put it together in this manual, which is my source. On the front of this manual, you will actually see the 4 basic principles of Modern Tahtib. So the art itself actually was called Modern Tahtib, and it stripped away a lot of the ceremonial aspects of it. And while it did keep a lot of the culture and the music, some of which I actually won't be playing today because I'm going to focus on the basic movements, and then next week we're going to get into the music. It's basically modern now. So a lot of things changed. They stopped using the jalabiya, they stopped wearing turbans, they started wearing tracksuits, started wearing the red 3-pointed belt and all of that. Now on to the martial aspect, because this is what we're here for today. We're going to start with the 4 principles of Modern Tahtib. So the first principle is striking from the rear, and I'll be demonstrating that today. We'll actually be going through the first 2 principles. So the first principle is striking from the rear. Now the reason you would strike from the rear is, there are several reasons. The first is you get a lot of power from it. This is essentially a blunt object. So in order for you to be the most dangerous with it as you possibly can, you need to build up speed, you need to build up energy, and you need to apply a lot of force, and you need some time to get it there. The second reason is that if you're fighting in ranks, what you don't want to do is swing the stick around your head and hit your friends on your left and your right, because that will be a bad day for them and eventually you. The third reason is that you could actually disguise your blows from different directions. So I'll show that to you later on as well. The next principle is protecting the head, as you can see here. The teacher here, shown in the kilt, and the student in the loincloth. He is actually moving the stick, showing him how to guard his head. Now, in ancient Egypt, and even up until the Middle Ages, your common soldier in Egypt was not wearing headgear. The helmets were something that rich people got. And even in the Middle Ages, if you were able to get a helmet, then, I mean, that's great, but not everybody could. And most of the helmets, especially in North Africa and the Middle East, were open-faced. So protecting your head was very important. You could take a hit on your leg or your torso. You could get stabbed in the butt cheek with a spear. But if somebody hits you in the head, the fight's over. You're done. The next is movement. Now, this is especially important because if you are basically fighting in the loincloth or in very light armor, it's not advantageous to you to stand there and slug it out. It's better for you to, sort of using the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu parlance, get position before submission. You want to get yourself into the right place to strike a blow or protect yourself. And your opponent can't hit you if you're not there. So that's why movement is important. So a lot of the dances and movements you find in Modern Tahtib are actually techniques that you can apply in the fighting. And we'll see some of those today and next week. The last one here, which you can't really see at the edge of the book, is called Touch My Body. What that means is don't mind the stick. You are fighting the opponent. You are not fighting the stick. So what you want to try to do is, if you're attacking with intention. You're not fencing sticks. The stick is just an obstacle. You're getting at the opponent. So be aggressive and don't be afraid to move forward and actually take them on. So those are the basics and the history of Modern Tahtib. So let's talk about the materials we're using today. So what we have is a stick. This is made of rattan. It's about a thumb thick, and it is commonly what's used. In ancient Egypt, they used hardwood that was called nabut, made of palm wood or other African hardwoods. But because in modern tahtib, we are not trying to kill our opponents, that's what this is for. So when you are actually playing in the joust, you are trying to touch your opponent lightly. You're not trying to, brain them in the head, because that's a bad day for them and you and possibly the police, and we don't want that, do we? So let's begin. So first we're going to talk a little bit about etiquette. Now, when you are in a class with Modern Tahtib, the proper position to stand in when you are waiting is this: hand over hand on top of the stick. This indicates that you have finished an exercise and that you are paying attention to the teacher. What it also means is that you are not fidgeting with the stick and pretending to be a ninja while you're trying to receive information on your techniques. So this is the position that you will be in when you are listening and when you are waiting for instructions, or when you're asking questions and having open floor. So what we'll be doing today is we'll be looking at the basic 13 stages, which are the basic strikes and defenses for Modern Tahtib. We'll also be doing a little bit of footwork exercise. And then later on, we'll have a session of what I call open floor, where you can ask questions, and then I'll be able to answer them for you. So let us begin. Next, with etiquette, we have the salute. Now, the salute is done in two ways. We have the halfeya, which is the forward salute, and we have the amameya, which is the reverse salute. Now, this is important because it shows your opponent that you have no intention of attacking them. But on the same note, what this also means is you are still protecting your head, because in the case that your opponent wants to be dishonorable and try to hit you in the head, you are protected. When you exit the circle, you will exit like this. Other things to remember with etiquette, we have to remember that this is about respect. You are showing your prowess as a stick fighter. You're not actually trying to kill somebody. So that is also very important. Now, how do you properly hold the stick? There are two basic ways that you need to do that. So the first is, for the strike, you need to make sure that this round part here is in the center of your hand and closed. So this needs to be kind of like a joint. The reason why it's sitting in the middle of the hand and with your pinky on the bottom here like this is because it's kind of like a joint. It gives you a little bit more flexibility when you are moving around with one hand. So you really have to work on your grip strength. Now, when you are holding it in an aggressive position, so in a position to attack, or offensive position, your hand is not here, your hand is not here, your hand is 1.5 up. So that allows you to do what's called a push-pull, and also a pull-push. This allows you maximum speed and control. If you can listen, there's a little bit of a whoosh that comes with that. When you are defending, another position is shoulder width apart. Now this is used for a defensive move that is called al-sadda, which is held about above the head, or you can do the side sadda, however you choose to do it, but it's about shoulder width apart. So we've gone through holding it, we've gone through the etiquette. Now we're going to get through and get started with some of the principles. So the first principle we're working with today is striking from the rear. So here's what I want you to do. If you can see my feet, we got to warm up first. Warming up is important because I don't want anybody to pull anything while we're getting started. So here are some of the warm-up exercises that we go through to get started. So we're going to go through some stretches, and we're also going to go through an exercise that's called stick mastery. Stick mastery helps you harmonize with the stick. So we'll get with that first. So first, take the stick. You want to hold it on the ends like this, and over your head and to your back. Back again. Over your head and to your back, and then back again. Over your head and to your back, and back again. Shake it out. Turn your palms upward. So your palms should be like this. And then over your back again, and make sure that the stick is touching your butt. It's got to go all the way back there. Over your head, and then back again. One more time, over your head, and then back again. Shake it out. All right, over the head. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. All right, roll your shoulders. Neck. Now, limbering up is very important because when you are doing Modern Tahtib, you are using your entire body. And what you don't want to do is to create a situation where you are not properly limbered and you pull something, or you roll your ankle, or you do something that otherwise is painful and not pleasant. So we want to make sure to avoid that. All right, take your stick behind your back, hands on your hips, and we're rolling. Gotta be nice and loose. Good. Good. All right, more stretching. Take your stick above your head, to your chest, to your waist, to your knees, to the ground. To your knees, to your waist, to your chest. Raise it up. Chest, waist, knees, ground. Knees, waist, chest, up. Chest, waist, knees, ground. And when you're touching the ground, you should feel that stretch about here. And again, this is all about loosening up. Next, we're going to take our left leg and put it forward. Our right leg is going to go back. We're going to take the stick, hold it like so, palms down, and raise the stick and lean forward. Now, what you don't want is for your front knee to go past your toes. It just needs to be straight, and you need to feel the stretch in here by your hip and in the back of your calf. Make sure that your rear heel stays on the ground. And we count to 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Back up. Right leg forward. Same thing. Lean forward. Make sure your knee doesn't pass your toe. Keep your rear heel on the ground and push your hips forward. You should feel the stretch in your hip and in your calf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Shake it out. Now, take your stick in your right hand, plant it, and you want to loosen up your hip, just like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Stretch that out. Now, take your right foot, cross it over your left ankle like this, raise the stick, and then lean in that direction. You should feel the stretch right about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Up again. Cross your left ankle over your right ankle and do the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Shake it out. All right. Now, you're going to take your right foot with your right ankle, cross it over your left knee, and then sit. You should feel the stretch in your glutes. Straighten it out. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Up. Now the other side. Left ankle, the right foot. Cross it over and sit. You should feel the stretch in your glutes. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Good, 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 good. All right, shake it out. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of stick mastery. Now, stick mastery, as I mentioned earlier, is a tool for being able to manipulate the stick with skill and comfort. You're building a relationship with the weapon. So we're going to start easy. You're going to hold the stick like so. Make sure the tip is touching your forearm like that. Now, you're going to take the stick, kind of like Bruce Lee does with nunchucks, put it over your shoulder. Catch it with your other hand, so just like that. And all you're doing is taking your offhand and crossing it over your belly, right under your elbow, and catching it. Repeat. Do this 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right? I'm going to give you guys a minute to let you finish that exercise, because I know there's a bit of a lag between me talking and you actually seeing the video. So when you finish that exercise, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so next part of stick mastery. I call this the twirl. So you take the stick, holding in the center, turn it over. Now when you're turning it, you catch it in your other hand, and you stretch it out. Turn it, catch. Turn it, catch. This helps limber up your wrists. Do this 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll wait for you guys to finish that exercise. I'll give you a minute. Okay, now we're going to do one of my favorites. This is called the stick toss. So here's the idea. You take the stick, holding it in the proper form, the offensive form. Now what you do is you take it, actually we turn it this way because the sun is in my eyes. Take it this way, bend your knees, toss it, and catch. Now if you're fancy, you do it with your legs. But I know a lot of you are beginners, so we'll just keep it straight. So again, take it like this, bend your knees, toss it forward, and catch the bottom. Okay? So your stick should travel like this. Alright? We're going to do 10 of those. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll wait for a second, let you guys get through that. Next, we're going to do the high toss. So the high toss, you hold the stick up like this, and you want to toss it and catch it 10. So it's the same thing. You're traveling the bottom up and catching the bottom. Try to do this 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And once you finish that, you're going to do it with your left hand. Turn to the sun's in my eyes. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, let me check the comments. How are you guys doing? All right. So, let me just grab a quick drink of water. And we'll work with this. So for those of you who are unable to do the high toss, you can do the low toss, or you can do what I call the bounce. So the bounce, if you don't like your neighbors downstairs, bounce the tip on the bottom and throw it up. Bounce, up, bounce, up. If you can do that 10 times, we'll give you guys some space for that. So now, once you finish all of the exercises and you go back to the waiting position, what we're going to do is work on the mechanics of how to strike. We'll go through the basic number 1, and then we'll go through what's called the 13 stages. The 13 stages is one of the initial stages of a codified joust. And it's a way of gauging your partner, seeing how they move, and also a way of harmonizing and welcoming them to the circle that you guys are sharing. So, here we go. So, striking mechanics. Now, as I mentioned before, you want to take the stick, and you want to hold it in this way. Hand in the center, or stick in the center of the hand, hand and a half above. A full palm grip. So if you look at my hands, it's like this. What you don't want to do is this. This is called maktuf. You actually have very little control, and most people have very little control holding it this way, especially if you're trying not to hurt your opponent. You get the most control and the most power right here. So don't do maktuf, right here. So, the first strike, you will take your right foot, put it forward. Your left foot should be behind you at about a 45-degree angle. This is sort of a push from the very bottom. It's kind of like a boxer where you're building an entire kinetic chain. So you take the stick, and you want to hold it here. Now I'll show you what it looks like from the back. You'll notice that the stick is lined up with my spine. This is to protect the back of my head. This is all assuming that somebody might come up behind you and give you a strike. But this also prevents me from hitting people that are beside me. The person behind me who can see what I'm doing is better able to keep a distance away from me while I'm swinging the stick than somebody who's behind me or beside me and not seeing what I'm doing. So, first position, you want to have this foot leaning forward. You want to be a little bit light, so your balance should be about even, so that you can easily move from one foot to the other. You don't want to lay too much on one foot or the other, because you want to be able to shift your weight quickly and make a move. So you're here. Now the first strike should come down as a pull-push like that. Now you want to lean into it. So as you can see here, I'm leaning into the strike. I turn to the other side. I'm leaning into it. I'm bending a bit at the hips and bending my knees as I come forward. Now what you should hear is a whoosh when you do it quickly. Now if you want to stop it, you go from a push-pull to a pull-push. Do that slowly. Now you're not trying to get a total extension of the arms, because you don't want to hurt your elbows. You want to go just far enough so that you're getting a good extension, but also still have the room to come back again. So I'll give you guys a minute to practice that. So, we'll do 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's the first and the most basic strike that you will get with Modern Tahtib, just right straight for the head. Now, while we're on the topic of targets, we should talk about the targets that you have in the joust. So you have 5 on the head and 1 on the body. So if you want to win a game, so if you're playing the game and you're jousting with each other, you want to get 2 simultaneous strikes to the body, or 2 successive strikes, so it would be a touch, 1, 2, or you want to get 1 touch to the head. Now here are the areas that you're allowed to touch on the head: the forehead, the top of the head, the 2 sides of the head, and the back of the head. And remember, you're not hitting with full force. You're tapping them. because you're trying to demonstrate your skill as a stick fighter. Thrusting is forbidden. Do not thrust. This is a no-gear martial art, so we don't want anybody to get hurt. In all the years that Modern Tahtib has existed, nobody has been seriously injured due to stick malfunction or stick misuse, and we really want to keep it that way. So if you are just playing the game or sparring with your colleagues or your friends, no thrusting, because it will hurt and nobody's going to have a good day. So the targets you're looking for are, you're striking the head, so this is here and here. You got the temples, so that's here and here. You have the back of the head, and that's a bit trickier because you've got to sort of get a wrap shot in, and that's more advanced, and we can talk about that another time. Now you have the body shots, which are here, here, or you can go here, and here. But all of that is covered in the general directions of the 13 stages. So let's get started with the 13 stages. Normally this is done with dynamic foot movement, but today we're just going to do it static so that you can actually see what it looks like. So you enter the circle, you've saluted your opponent. Great. Now, you start here. Now the first strike is for the knee. Now, in a joust, you're not actually targeting the knee. This can actually be used, a low strike can be used when your opponent is fighting from the ground, and that's, again, more advanced, so we can discuss that later. But your first strike is for the knee. Now, what you want to do is watch how my hands are crossed. This is where the strike should be. Now, when you recoil, your next strike should be for the other knee. So, knee 1, knee 2. Try that again. Knee 1, knee 2. We'll do that 10 times, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now your immediate follow-up after doing that is to protect your legs. So the first guard, similar to how your hand was like this when you were striking, now you're doing it to defend yourself. So you take this hand that's in the rear and you push it under your elbow and you're guarding here. That's how you protect your leg. So if somebody's striking at you from this end, boom. Now they're coming at you from the other side. Stretch your hands out. Crossed, uncrossed. Now, it's really important to pay attention to the transition. So, allergies. So in the transition, you're actually drawing a U. Now, this is important because if you have a spear, what you want, God, my allergies are killing me. What you want is for the spear point to create distance between you and your opponent. Because if you're doing this, trying to change sides, all this does is give up all this real estate. So you're trying to make sure that you keep that your opponent stays away from you while you're exchanging. And if this was a spear, and you are actually fighting for real, boom, stick them right there. So as you're doing the U, you want to make sure that this translates over to catch the bottom. 1, 2. So it's just kind of like swinging a baby in a cradle. So we're going to do this 10 times. Ready? And 1, 2, 2. It's number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now again, this is done with more dynamic footwork. So once we've gone through all the stages, I'll show you how it looks in its entirety. The next target is the ribs. So this is where you're trying to get your points. So now you are striking here. Recover and strike here. Recover and strike here. Recover and strike here. So we're going to do 10 of those, okay? Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, how do you protect yourself from that? Well, as I showed you earlier, the sadda. So now what you do is you take your hand, slide it about shoulder width apart, take your top hand, put it down to your hip, or put your elbow to your hip, and create that distance. You don't want it to be straight here, so you don't want it to be like this. You want it to be kind of like this. Now the reason why you want it a bit forward is so that you don't get a situation where the stick wraps, or your stick is too far back, and you end up getting hit in the belly. I myself am a bit rotund, so I need to keep the stick a bit forward so that the parts of me not covered by the stick don't get hit. So you grab this side. Now to transition, remembering the second principle, you cover your head, and it should be at a 45-degree angle, because that prevents the stick from coming over. It also makes sure that you don't have it too high and it catches you here. You want it here. And then you just do the same on the other side. Put your elbow to your hip and put the stick a little bit forward like that. So you should have it looking here. So now we'll do 10 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. So, let's get on to the next target. The next target is the clavicle. So, if you're thinking about it in a combat context, you break them here. This arm is not really going to be much use now, is it? Break it over here, well, this arm's not going to be much use now, is it? So, the 2 strikes on the clavicle come down like this. 1, 2. 1, 2. So we're going to do 10 of those, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, we've almost made it to the end. Now we're going to do the number 1 strike and a motion that's called the small horse. So to show you the small horse, it is a maneuver where you are giving up the center line. So if you can see my feet, you turn sideways off the center line, and your lead foot should be up like this. So what you're looking for is a motion like this. That actually you find in the dance called the small horse, which we'll do next week. So your feet, to show you a bit closer, should be moving like this. So the center of your foot should be up by your ankle. And what you're doing is you're giving away the center line. So you're stepping like that. Step, small horse. Step, small horse. Step, small horse. Step, small horse. And the position of the stick should be like that movement in HAMA is called shedding. It's also called a roof block. In Modern Tahtib, pretty much any guard that comes over your head like this, we call a pyramid guard. Hardy har. So you want to be like this. Now that is your response to the number 1 strike. So to get through the last part of the stage, you will strike, then you will recover into the small horse movement. So you will take your lead foot, turn it out to the right. Bring your, and at the same time, you're bringing this foot in to put your toe by your ankle, and you're pulling the stick up here. So the motion goes 1, 2. Now you do it on the other side. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you want to make sure to do that 8 times, so it's a back and forth. So total, your sticks should be hitting each other 8 times. It's 8 motions, so 4 strikes and 4 defenses. And then, when you are closing to the end of it, what you're adding onto that is you are then doing the same motion of the 13 stages in reverse. So after you've gone through the 8 strikes, you now, if you were attacking before, you are defending. So we'll go through everything again. So the first step, defend, defend, strike, strike, defend, defend, strike, strike, defend, defend, strike, strike. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Salute. So now we're going to run through that together. I'll give everybody a minute to get into the waiting position, and then we'll get started, okay? All right, let's go. And right, left leg back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then back to the position, and you are defending, defending, strike, strike, defend, defend, strike, strike, defend, defend, strike, strike, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and salute. So that is the basic 13 stages. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like in its entirety so that you can see how it goes back and forth. Salute. That is the 13 stages. Let me just check the time here because we only have an hour. All right, so we got 15 minutes left. So, why don't we close it off in the last 15 minutes and do a bit of open floor. So, I am going to sit here and I'll answer some of your questions for the next 15 minutes. So, let's see what we got. Okay, length of the stick. So yes, we're looking at about 4 to 4.5 feet long. Generally 4 feet long, made of rattan, about a thumb thick. Now what's important is it needs to be rounded on both ends. And this is important because what you don't want is to hit somebody with the edge of the stick or to have the edge of the stick stabbing you in the hand. So that's generally what you're looking at. So about 4 feet. Do we have any other questions for open floor? Let's see. Okay, we got questions on the links of the stick. Let's see. Okay, so yes, the right hand is always on the bottom. So it may be flipped because I have it sort of on selfie mode, but this is my right hand, and the right hand is always at the bottom of the stick. You can switch to the left hand if you're doing conversions and changing sides, so that is absolutely a thing that you can do. But generally, with the stick, it is 99% of the time right hand at the bottom and other hand at the top. So we have a comment asking what is the fighting style called and where does it originate? So just to recap, in case you haven't had an opportunity to see some of the promotional material and you missed the beginning of the class, this is Modern Tahtib. This is an Egyptian style of stick fighting. This particular system was reconstructed by Dr. Adel Boulad within the last 20 some odd years. This art originated in Egypt probably, I'll say about 5,000 years ago, because that is the earliest depiction that we have. If you want to get a copy of the book, you can buy it from BudoEditions.com, and you can also get it on Amazon. I got mine from Amazon. So we have a question about feints. Are feints common in this style? Absolutely. People feint and trick and move around all the time. I would say a stylistic, a good stylistic comparison would be capoeira with the concept of Malaysia. So you do want to move around and let somebody think you're coming on one side, but really you're coming on the other side. You want to pretend that you're striking one way, but you're actually striking another way. So absolutely, you definitely do use a lot of trickery in Modern Tahtib. So there was a question about a YouTube channel where I teach. I do not have a YouTube channel where I teach. Pretty much everything is coming through HAMA. I will be launching an official Modern Tahtib North America YouTube channel, Facebook site soon. But if you are looking for more information on the on Modern Tahtib, you can actually go to the Modern Tahtib YouTube channel, or Modern Tahtib YouTube channel to pronounce it correctly, and there are videos on the different techniques, on the codified jousts, on how to free joust, and various techniques that you can apply. Let's see. Do I ever switch hand position in Tahtib? Yes, we do switch hand positions in Modern Tahtib. Are there live competitions? Yes. France is the home of Modern Tahtib. That is where Dr. Adel Boulad does his work and is based. He does hold an annual tournament in Paris every year. He's looking to have the community grow worldwide. He's actually working on a plan to bring Modern Tahtib to the Olympics in 2032. So what we're trying to do is build a global community. So if you want to build a if you want to watch some of the competitions, there are videos on YouTube showing the competitions at work. Right now, what HAMA is trying to do is establish a community of people who practice Modern Tahtib here in North America, so that we can have our own tournaments here and not have to fly to France to do them. If you're looking for sticks, yes, there are tons of websites where you can buy rattan. In the case that you cannot get rattan, you can always go with an oak wood staff. I would always recommend being extra careful with those, but you can buy hardwood dowels at the hardware store. You can round them off and you can use them to train. I would not recommend using them to spar unless you have been doing Modern Tahtib for a long time. But yes, rattan you can get a bunch of different places. Let me see if we have other questions here. Your YouTube channel, Feints Common, Amazon, best site to get a stick. Yeah, so those are the basics. So we actually, in lieu of questions, I'll actually show you a bit of what's in the manual. So the manual itself covers everything from practices, so flexing, synchronization. So these are some exercises that you can do with a partner once COVID allows us to meet other people. Okay, so Renard actually asked if it was modern. So the reason why it's modern is because this was created, this particular style of tahtib was developed within the last 20 years. And it is doing away with a lot of the old traditions that we commonly associate with modern tahtib, or with tahtib in general. So we're talking about getting rid of the jalabiya, which is the long tunic that is worn in Upper Egypt. People aren't wearing the turbans anymore. The addition of the red sash. Some of the more professional schools, or schools more professional than mine, use what's called a three-pointed belt. The three-pointed belt, it represents the loincloth that you see here worn in the hieroglyphs. How long have I been a student of Dr. Boulad? I started studying with Dr. Boulad in about 2017. I sent him an email and begged him to let me be his student. He was kind enough to take me on. He actually flew to Canada and allowed us to do a workshop to personally teach me and help me accelerate my training. Most of what I know from Modern Tahtib I have learned through his distance instruction, through reading the manual, through checking the YouTube, and of course by submitting videos to him and getting his permission to teach the art and share it with all of you. Let's see, what else? So, yeah, so in the historical, I mean, in ancient times when this was on the battle, yes, they were trying to kill somebody because they were going to battle. What is done now, or what is currently called traditional tahtib, is a bit more of a dance, and it's just a game that a bunch of fun guys play. It's kind of like tag with sticks. In Modern Tahtib, is the tradition still practiced? So, yes, the tradition is still practiced in Upper Egypt. You can look up videos going back to the 70s. Even now, you can see different schools. There's the International School of Tahtib run by Mohammed Sabari. I think he's in Cairo. So he does teach what we call traditional tahtib, but it's important to note that that particular style is actually about 100 years old. So it's not necessarily something that would date directly back to the pharaohs. The techniques are there. The techniques have carried, but the purpose and the execution of techniques and the culture are a little bit different. So that is why we call it modern. The modern tahtib is bringing it from the ceremonial dance aspect and spending more time on the martial aspect, but still maintaining some of the traditions, like using dance to teach the different movements. Let's see. So what else do we have here? Was this used with axes, historically speaking? So I would say yes and maybe. And this is why I would say that. Because tahtib in general, in ancient times, was basically to train anybody to use a stick this big or any weapon this big in the battlefield. So it didn't matter what you put on the end of this. You could put a spear on the end of this, you could put an axe on the end of this, and half the time, if you were really unlucky, you would basically you get a stick. There's actually images of soldiers who are going to war. I'm talking out on the battlefield, bloody chariots, bows and arrows, and all they get is a stick. So they generally had to work with that. So do I mean pole arms or spears in general? Basically, yeah, a stick. If it's a stick or has a thing on the end of the stick, if it's a mace, spear, doesn't matter. Does it translate to sword? This is actually a really interesting question because the principles of modern tahtib you actually find executed in many of the North African stick fighting arts. So if you look at El Matreg, for example, all 4 of the basic principles are there. Generally, most of the starting positions, which you'll see in week 3, are protecting your head. Movement is essential. You are fighting the opponent, not the stick, and you are a lot of times striking from the rear. You are building up a lot of momentum and striking from the back. So from El Matreg to the saber traditions that El Matreg was used to teach, you find that there as well. Does modern tahtib take out thrust? In what we call traditional tahtib, they don't thrust either, because they are playing a game. They're just demonstrating their prowess as stick fighters. They're not actually trying to hurt each other. I mean, if you ever get a chance to see an Egyptian street fight with sticks, yes, they absolutely do thrust, because all of the conventions of culture and respect are not there. So would it be disrespectful to work Modern Tahtib into a dance? You actually don't really need to work Modern Tahtib into a dance. You can use what's called traditional Tahtib. There's actually an entire dance form from Egypt called Tahtib as well. So it can get confusing. You have traditional Tahtib, which is technically not traditional because it's about 100 years old. You have Tahtib the dance, which is done on stage and in performances with single and double stick. And then you have Modern Tahtib, which is the style that I do. Are there any other African martial art forms? Any hand-to-hand combat? Absolutely. So in ancient Egypt, specifically, we have boxing and we also have wrestling. Damon Stick is much better at those than I am. I am a stick guy, but hand-to-hand watching is absolutely... hand-to-hand fighting is absolutely something you see all over the continent, from lutte traditionnelle in Senegal to Morengi in Madagascar, or Musangwe, or Gretsch. There are tons of different styles. How short of a weapon can be used with Tahtib rules, Kali, with the surgeries? Well, if you want to participate in Modern Tahtib, it has to be this size because that is the regulation to make things even, equal, and fair. But the principles are universal in terms of African martial arts in general, or North African, I should say. So in the North African context, these are pretty universal. You do see a lot of images of stick fighting and sword fighting where there is a default position of protecting the head. And again, if you're unarmored, movement is definitely important. The footwork is absolutely applicable to most stick fighting traditions. Let's see, what else do we have here? Someone asked if we could watch the feed again. I'm going to try to get this preserved on Facebook and see if I can download this later. But I'm going to put this in the archive so that this is viewable again. Wait, I'm here. I'm here. Tu parles français? Yes, absolument, je parle français. Je suis canadien, absolument. J'ai eu besoin d'étudier français en école primaire, so that's absolutely, yes, I am a francophone. Or a bilingual, I should say. Footwork. Yes, so because movement is so important, and I do recommend checking out the Modern Tahtib YouTube channel because there are some of the most beautiful fights you have ever seen. Everything from disarms to stick flips to ground fighting, it's all there. So I absolutely recommend checking out the Modern Tahtib YouTube channel. That way you can see all of the different styles or all of the different approaches to Egyptian stick fighting. Let me just check on the time here. So we got 2 minutes left. Any other questions? Anything else you want to pick my brain about? Okay, so to sum up, today we covered the basic etiquette. We talked about the 13 stages, which is the most basic form to introduce to all of the different strikes and defenses that you can use in Modern Tahtib. Next week, we're going to do a bit of footwork. We're going to do a bit of music. Music is essential because music was used to teach people to learn the movements. In a lot of African martial traditions, north, south, east, west, or central, even in the diaspora, music and dance help people to learn the various techniques. Everything is embedded in the dances. So we're going to do a little bit of that next week. I will make you dance. I will bring my doumbek out and we'll play. It'll be a great time. Then the next week, so we'll also go on about things like the Rasha, and we'll do a move that I call the big jump. So don't let me forget it. Next week, I'll teach you guys the big jump. Then after that, we'll be doing El Matreg Basics in week 3. El Matreg Basics, you'll be learning the basic 14 strikes. So the 12 cuts and the 2 thrusts and the 12 defenses and 2 thrust defenses. We'll go through some basic exercises on how it is used, and you'll learn the basic competencies of North African stick fighting. And in week 4, I'll be sharing with you guys something that I've been working on for quite some time, and that is a North African saber curriculum. I tested it last year at HAMA's gathering, and it was quite well received, so I will be providing that. In terms of sources for my swordsmanship, I'm basing it on the principles of Modern Tahtib Basics, which was used for swordsmanship, and also from exercises that we have been able to translate from different Mamluk texts and other books on North African and Turkic saber fencing. So, do we have any other questions before we close it off? And if I can save this, I will try to put this up on YouTube. Yep. All right. Well, it is now 8:31, so that is the end of today's class. I will see you guys next week at the same time on Thursday. And just to let you know, there will be more classes coming, not just from me, but from other members of the council. Damon Stith will be running some classes, and we'll be promoting that as soon as we get the schedule finalized. But there will be another 4 weeks of classes that you can try from the various curriculums that Damon teaches. Where am I located? I am located just outside of Toronto. I am a Canuck, and I love poutine. Vive le Canada. All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedules. All 17 or 30 some odd of you that were here for the class. And I will see you next week. Cheers.